good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, and disembodied hands Quindy, disembodied beard John, and my sulky puppy, who I had to delay the stream for just a little because she was barking. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Guten Morgen. So I was chatting with Ron yesterday to make sure that I didn't do some awesome YouTube videos and then have those paints canceled. And Ron asked me for some input. So I'm going to give him some input. And I'm not going to share with you guys the specific input. However, as Reaper's been saying for a while, they're looking to downsize the line a bit. If there's a color that you absolutely love and must have, buy it now. Buy it now, everybody. I've said that before, too. She's sulky because I yelled at her for barking, Hendrik. So now she's curled in the hall going, oh. She's like, I was just trying to protect you from axe murderers, Mom. And I was like, since when have you ever been correct about there being an axe murderer? Alright, let's see here. I want to do that flame. Where is my fire? Oh, I guess I don't have fire out. I have explosion. We'll use sunrise then. Sunrise, and where's my lemon yellow? That's clear yellow. I don't need clear yellow. I need lemon yellow. No, I don't need yellow mold. I need lemon yellow. Arg! Seriously? Have I gotten rid of my lemon yellow? I guess I'm using torchlight. Ron asked me for my input on the paint line, on shrinking it. And I'm going to give it to him because, hey, I've got a vacation coming up. I'm going to have a lot of time. So I'm going to give him input. And I'm not going to tell you guys what input I give him because he might just throw it out. Are you going to hate me, Quindy? Are you no longer my friend if I ask him to cancel Moth Green? I don't know, man. Peer pressure, it's real. However, the paint line, to be fair, needs to be trimmed, guys. Between bones and regular, you've got almost 500 colors. I haven't said anything yet. I haven't told him anything yet. I haven't even sat down. I did sit down and print out. I went on Reaper's site and I printed out both lines in their entirety. And I'm going to go through with my fancy highlighters and markers, and I'm going to do the thing. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's and doesn't even include, I think, all of the, there's just, as you say, it doesn't include all of it. And they're struggling with space and stuff. And so, and I get it. The line ballooned far beyond what we thought it was going to be, right? Because, if I had my druthers, guys, I would just design an entire paint line and have, a company totally release it over the next 3 years, right? Just so that you could do it in an orderly fashion, have it make sense, and so you know what you're doing, right? And at that point. But this is the next best thing. I will tell you what my goal is. Given what Ron has said, and before there's been talk of all this stuff. What I told Ron years ago, and this may or may not happen because, Reaper will do what it wants to do. But what I told Ron years ago, that if I could redo it, I would take all of our paints together, toss them into a bucket, sort them out, and cancel the colors we didn't need to get one comprehensive line. That looked good, that made sense, all the colors classed together, all the reds together, all the oranges together, that's what I would do. No, I'm afraid I'm going to have to do those on YouTube, Turgeon. I am no longer in a position to sell mixing guides to go with the line. We wouldn't need mixing guides, guys. Do you have any idea how many colors we have that are totally close to each other? You could easily destroy a large number of MSP paint colors and not be sad about it. You would still have a color that was close enough. The thing about moth, Quindy, is that... one second, Resin, I'll get to that in a second. The thing about moth is that when I need a color like moth, I mix it. Because it's so easy to just take a green and a light yellow. Like, canary plus clear green equals moth. You just need to use a tiny amount of green. And so when I need that color, I tend to mix it. Because it's only two colors. It's only yellow and green. And so if you clear yellow and clear green it, or you canary, I think canary yellow is a better choice in bones. But you mix those two colors together, you get moth green. So when it's that easy to mix them, I tend to be more like, all right, do we really need it? Especially because we have so many yellow greens, right? Now, I could see maybe dropping like 90-12 and putting moth in there to get a more saturated green. Although it's also a lower coverage green, right? So, yeah. That's the kind of thinking that you have to do, in my mind. This is why I'm kind of happy that Ron is allowing me to give some input, whether he takes it or not. He doesn't have to take it. But, I mean, I'm the one who made it, and I really feel like, as far as, like, paint line design, I'm a good one to give this input. So, because I want a workable line. Dungeon Slime is moth green with white in it. But it is, because it has that white, it is a really good highlighter for all other yellow greens, because you don't have to add that white in addition. You just throw Dungeon Slime in it. I've totally done that. But yeah, so and just so you guys know what I'm doing here, let me get everything set, what we're going to talk about this stuff. All right, there. So this is Sunrise Orange. I would have used Fire Orange if I had it in my box over here, but I decided to swap it out for Sunrise a while ago because I can always add yellow and white to make an Fire Orange equivalent. Then we've got our yellow, our white. Okay, so before I go on talking about this, Resin, you asked about blues. Blues are touchy. I use a lot of MSP blue. My favorite is Cyan Blue, must have, 9117, primary blue for the win. I also love Ritterlich, 9115. I love Ultramarine for when I need a more purpley blue. It's 9189, or 9187, sorry. Ultramarine Shadow, specifically. And then if you go for lighter blues, I love Tropical Blue from Bones. Tropical Blue is probably my medium blue go-to. If I need something like in between like cyan and tropical, I'm just going to mix a little white into my cyan probably. Yes, exactly. So when I give this feedback, Quindy, that'll be part of my recommendation, is just like tell people at least a month in advance so that they can buy extras. Now, the problem comes when we are canceling a paint and you go to buy extra and maybe there were only like 12 bottles left in the bin, right? We're not going to make a whole new batch of a paint we're about to cancel. Then you're kind of like out of luck. Yeah, that's the problem. Well, and the nice thing about this, guys, is honestly, and I would kind of expect this to be a thing. Yeah, I mean, at least if it were me, I would do it. But if you're going to do a cancellation that's fairly large, what you do for ReaperCon is you bring back the most popular colors. You poll your audience to find out which of the canceled colors people loved the most, and those are your ReaperCon colors. Like, that's what I would do. Then you don't have to come up with a new formula. You bring back something that a lot of new people won't have, you know, because every year we have more people entering the hobby and discovering the paint. Seriously, or sorry, Resin, did I give you enough blue info? I'd like to say also that if you want the phthalos, if you're mixing and you don't care about transparency, getting your hands on some clear phthalo blues, like I use the Chimera if I need them, because they come in both red and green shade. Yeah, but for MSP, my hands down, like, and this is the one blue that David, like, that's the only blue he uses. If he needs to like change it, he just mixes a bit of purple, a bit of black, a bit of whatever into it, because it's just versatile. It's just that versatile. So yeah, Cyan Blue 9117, hands down. My other blues, I think those are pretty much what I've got in my my box over here. I keep a lot of lighter blues and gray blues on hand just to have something if I want a quick, like you've seen me use ashen blue and akata blue and stuff like that before. I really love gray blues, and so I have a lot of gray blues in my lineup. Another one I really love for highlights is Ice Devil, because it's just a quick throw it into any blue highlight. And I love the warm tone to it. That's a Pathfinder color, though. Oh, and you don't have to worry about Pathfinder. I believe Pathfinder's just fine. Like, nothing gonna happen to Pathfinder right now. Yes, that's true. Secondary market. Well, I'll strongly recommend that, Quindy. You know the best I can do is just give recommends. This is all just input. Like I said, Ron may read it, scoff, and throw it out the window. He is within his rights to do so. I'm no longer a paint department head, so... But, you know, if I can give him a solution and it helps him save time and he likes it, then awesome. But I will ask him to please give people a heads up. Sometimes the Reaper Con paints have some interesting colors, but because we have so many darn colors in the line, you're really splitting hairs to get new colors. That's the problem. You have to put out something muted or unusual mixes, and those are just not utility colors, because the utility colors already exist in the line. I'm going to do white first. I'm being silly. I reached for my orange first, and then I realized I didn't want to do that. So actually, the first thing we're going to reach for is white. We're going to lighten up the bottom of this flame. Just accentuate, because white primer is white primer, but it's not a bright white. So if you really want a bright white, you got to use pure white. Yeah, except that one people love, resin. Because it's a funny and a funny joke color. It also is more useful than you think it is. Like, Drown Nipple, we didn't have a pinky purple, like, we didn't have that color at all. Like, nothing even close to it before it came out. So, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, a lot of people started using it in skin tones. I've done that. Yeah, but that's the best case scenario. Like, Drown Nipple is the best case scenario for that kind of color. Most of those colors, people are like, eh, and maybe you use it once just to use it, but you just don't, lean into it. All right, I'm going to take Torchlight. We're going to work up from the white, and then we're going to put orange at the top, and then we're going to refine. So we're just blocking in our flame here. I may have needed, actually, to put white on the whole thing. The problem is if you have any gray left whatsoever, these light colors are just not going to look great. So I actually think I'm going to bring in my white again. I'm just going to do the whole thing, painting in white. When you're doing a flame, a light source, something that's supposed to be, like, actually a light, doing the entire thing undercoated in white is a generally good idea. No, actually not Shadow Raven. If there's a consolidated line, all SKUs and color names stay the same. So the only thing that would change is essentially a bunch of colors would get canceled, hypothetically, if this happened. A bunch of colors would get canceled, and the racks would be redone to put all of the colors, the labeling would slowly get revamped, and the racks would be redone to put the colors in various places, right? So, like, if for example, I were to recommend getting rid of all of the MSP core oranges and yellows and replacing them with the Bones oranges and yellows, then you would just have that swap. Like, that would where it would be the way it's in the store and on the rack. You'd just get things classed together, despite the SKU. Most people don't care about the SKU anyway. Distribution does, though, and that's why we have to keep them the same. Glad you at least got a room, even if you didn't get the black Twisted Oma. But yeah, so that's my understanding is what would happen is that colors would get canceled. Um, probably the store would get reordered so that, that you could find things. Although right now you can still already sort for reds, metallics, stuff like that. You can already sort our store, but redoing the racks so that all the reds are together, all the yellows and oranges are together, et cetera, which I think is just smart. Bones was created to be a higher coverage line, Polly, whereas with MSP Core, the coverage falls where it may, just like with artist paints, it depends on the pigments. So you have a lot more transparent, translucent colors in Core, which are really good for like layering. Like all of our translucent darks are in Core, I believe, and those are really good for layering shadows and stuff. So I'm just working with my yellow now, just bringing the yellow in. I'm gonna keep a bit of the white at the base, but gonna take over with mostly yellow. Just leave a tiny bit of white down there. The Bones line also is not in triads, and it also has different metallics technology. We're using a different flake type for the most of the Bones metallics, not all. It's just going to be one Reaper paint line, Shadow Raven. One Reaper paint line. Because, as Polly just proved, nobody really understands the difference between Bones and Core anyway. It just tends to confuse people. So, that would be hypothetically the way it would work. No. I mean, we already have that, Turgeon. But we're not renaming anything. No. That Ron was solid on that. And it's because of distribution. GW isn't concerned with distribution as much. Like, they distribute their own product. They have their own line of stores, right? There's a big difference there. And in fact, they kind of don't really care. Like, at least years ago, I remember there was a big hullabaloo where they pretty much said, we don't really care about you retail stores. But yeah, so Games Workshop is a different beast. And we already have our paints named appropriately. I mean, I did it. Like, I already have Vampiric Skin. I already have, like, I already tried to do that. Or tried to do that. I don't know if they'll do that, Laura. I mean, it depends on resources. Right? Although, I mean, Ed really liked having the state of Texas on there, and I always thought it was kind of nice, too. It's essentially a made in the USA that it doesn't say, It's an additional made in the USA. I mean, maybe they would redo it to put the Reaper label on it, or the Reaper logo on it, but it just depends on who's got the time to sit down and redo 300 labels. Because spacing can be weird. I don't remember if they have a way to go through and change all labels with the stroke of a button, but I don't think they do. In which case, you may just have to deal with not having, the actual logo, just having the Reaper miniatures, the RMI logo, or RMI trademark on there, or whatever it is. Yeah, reapermini.com. Sure, we could have branded a little better for sure. But again, it's just like limited people, limited time. The blues between Core and Bones are actually quite different, Shadow Raven, if you didn't know that. The blues in MSP Core tend to be cooler, and the blues in MSP Bones are definitely warmer, more toward green. So you've got they are quite different actually. If you look closely, you can tell. But for the average painter, they wouldn't know. So the blues will be an interesting conundrum when I get to them because of that. Do you keep it? Or do you just say we don't care about cool and warm, or maybe we just keep a couple of cool ones and mostly go warm, or what do you do, right? It is, Laura. It's just a thing that whoever created the label just the technology and the time they had, and they just didn't have a Reaper logo that would work in that printing format, and they were just like, okay, we're just gonna do this. It just happens. I am not gonna. That is the least of my worries. The lack of branding on Reaper's paint bottles is the least of my worries. If we're gonna quibble, okay, we can quibble about that, but for me, I'm just like, all right, we're gonna I'm keeping a little bit of the white, but I'm gonna start bringing the yellow down around all of this because with these flames usually. Yep, there is a difference. Trust me, I made it that way. I don't remember what the rationale was or if there even was one, Pendrake. So I'm going to mix a little bit of my orange and yellow and my white, and I'm going to bring that color around the edges here. Yeah, yep, that's just the problem with the technology. But the alternative, if we want to go to nicer labels, then we have to cancel. We have to cancel colors. Because we do not, with glut already a problem, we certainly do not have room to keep all the labels in stock for 500 colors. And even if we do cancel, we still might not have the room. I remember when we had pre-printed labels, guys. It takes up a lot of room to stock that stuff in those big rolls. Plus, you had to depend on shipping from a different company to be able to refill your orders. So we're just doing that. We're getting a bit of this going on here. Mixing a little bit more of this yellow, orange with the white in it. Oh, it's more than a couple of pennies per bottle. Yeah, it would raise the price of the paint to go to pre-do labels, but anyway. So a little bit extra glow there. We'll pop the yellow down into the crevices so we don't have just a blank white down there. We'll leave a little bit of lighter color. We'll keep a tiny bit of white here and there. Torchlight's a good color for this because it's not a terribly saturated yellow, and you really want a pale yellow, a pale warm yellow for this, and that is Torchlight. You could use Candlelight as well. Obviously, anything with those kind of names are this is what they're meant for. Yeah, there's not a big margin on paint, guys, because the supplies are expensive to do paint. So when you also add in the cost of the labels and you multiply that by how many paints we have on in the line and how much we have to store and how much we have to order ahead, it's just another big overhead. I remember us essentially having to stall production because our label manufacturer suddenly couldn't like fill our order for like an extra week. And then they were going to have to ship it, and it was like it just stalled you out. Like, you couldn't keep up at that point because you were dependent on them, so you had to really keep on top of stock, but things can still happen. So, I mean, there's many reasons why Reaper decided to print their own labels. But yeah, I have no idea about the label situation. This is all pure conjecture, pure waste of breath, actually. Yeah, exactly. It's not a priority, right? Reaper always has a lot going on, and now we have fewer people to do it with because we don't have Ed anymore. So never underestimate the amount of energy that Ed had for stuff like this. You know, product development stuff. Like, he was always working on that kind of thing. He was always working on, where to put our energy. That's what made him a great CEO. It wouldn't be difficult, but it still takes time. I would not, Turgeon. Please do not, in fact, do that, because I don't want him to regret asking me for input because I talked to you guys. So if you could all say and not do that, that would be great. I'm sharing with you guys because, I'm happy that I get to maybe have some input. And I'm not sharing with you so that you can make Ron regret asking me for input. We're talking about the paint line, Richard. I get to give Ron a little bit of input, which he may ignore, about what to do with the paint line bloat right now. So I mentioned that because when I hear about this stuff, I always want to tell you guys, buy the color you love now. Just in case. Make sure you have adequate bottles of things that you absolutely adore. For me, it's orchid purple. Even though I love that color, I don't know that I'm going to be able to keep it in the line. So, by my recommendation anyway. Yeah, regret's all great until you impact, me being able to maybe help with this process. I would have a hard time forgiving you for that, Shadow Raven. Because I'm actually quite happy to be able to give some input on this, because I feel like I'm qualified to do it. I feel like it's up my wheelhouse. And I feel like I can do a good job. So I'm just going to start working in the orange toward the ends of these little things now. There you go. Yes, commission more Julie Dragons. Yes, and that's why you guys have to keep your mouths shut. Yeah. Ron's not going to give you info anyway, so. Right now he doesn't even have info. Because like I said, I'm not going to get to work on this until I'm in Arizona, so. And again, no matter what I tell him, he may just decide that it's not what they want. I mean, you guys are my gang, and so I like to, share a little bit about this stuff. But if it backfires on me, I'll stop sharing anything at all. That's how it works. Yeah. Yeah, it'll be narrowed down one way or another walking harder. It's just like how I will. Yeah, if he brings up the topic, then you can. Yeah, it's true. It is the least efficient way to communicate anything. Because Reaper Live is just like spam chat. So bringing up just little bits of orange all around the edge of the little flame. it down, and I'll bring it some of it all the way down. And I still need to bring some of the yellow down into here. And I need to mix a little bit of that orangey yellow, white. I'm just going to make it in a separate puddle. Pretty much equal amounts of sunrise orange, torchlight, and white to get kind of a pale creamsicle kind of color. And then I'm going to go down inside of this brazier. Now we got a little bit of white still at the bottom of the flames, and I'll make sure that stays. Yeah, Quindy. Yeah, me and my 4 bottles of Mithril Silver. It's the only Games Workshop paint that I actually like went out of my way to get extra bottles of. So parts in the thicker parts of this flame, I'll bring in some white over the top of the yellow. It's not going to completely cover the yellow, but it'll help bring in that brightness. But yeah, bottom line is always, if you really enjoy a color, pick up an extra bottle when you order it. And when you hear a company start making noises about cancellations, put it on your schedule to make an order within a month. I mean, maybe they'll take 2 years to do it. Maybe they won't. But put it on your little to-dos and get her done while you can. That's a nice shape. I like that shape. Chainmail is close enough. And it's a little bit darker, so it's not quite as useful, but still. Pro tip, folks. If you like metallics, and you have to buy like only 1 or 2 metallics, get the ones that are closest to the raw flake color, because you can always add black or brown or whatever to tune the color. So bright silver and bright gold are your most useful metallics if you have limited funds. Sorry, went off camera. But you can see I'm leaving little bits of white. I'm also throwing in a bit of extra yellow so that the white is in very small areas like that. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be people trolling in the chat. Or just asking questions that they really don't need the answer to. Or that Reaper's just not ready to answer. We streaming personalities reserve the right to ignore questions in the chat. Nightshade is likely to live just because it's very unique. The more unique a color, the more likely, and the harder for your average person to mix, the more likely that you keep it, that I keep it in my recommendations, but it just depends. So now we need a little bit more orange out here. This is looking good right here. No, I will not tonic because I painted the model as if it is in daylight. When you paint a model as if it's in daylight, you essentially, if you tried to do OSL anywhere, it's gonna, you're sending the message to the viewer that this is brighter than the sun, and that's not the case. So that's why the torch is way out here, and I'm doing some OSL like around the inside of the pot technically, but otherwise I'm gonna leave it. if in the future you will not see me do any OSL that is daylight OSL. Like, it's just not correct. You're going to see me paint a model like it's in partial shadow and then do the OSL. Either that, or if it's a magical item that's held very close, then I could see doing it. But I'm getting picky with my OSL. Like, it really bothers me when OSL is painted wrong nowadays. I get frustrated with it. It's fine for if you need to practice your OSL to do that. Just because, you know, you're painting a mini and you just decide to practice your OSL, that's fine. But for me, I'm beyond that point. Like, if I'm going to paint it, I want it to look good. And for me, it detracts from the model if I've done it wrong. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, Shadow, it's fine to do that when you're practicing your OSL, when you're first learning. Like, your skill set, you know, it maybe I can try some OSL, but not I can paint a model as if it's partially in shadow and do some OSL, right? So, but since I am like at the point where I can paint a model as if it's in twilight now and make it work, I'm not going to do a daylight OSL, like, unless I'm like, there's some models like that are maybe holding a sword crossbody. If you did the glowing sword, you could do that. But yeah, the other light, that's wrong. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, sometimes you can pull it off, sometimes you can't, and it depends on how close the object is, and if you're saying it's a magical object, then you can get away with it more because maybe a magical object actually is brighter than the sun right here, right now. Right? So at least in this small distance away from whatever it is lighting up. So magic, you can get away with it more. But this is a natural flame. I'm painting it like a natural flame. It looks like a natural flame. It looks good, actually. I'm pretty happy with it right now. It looks like fire. That's what it needs to do. You can see that I've kept a little bit of the white down there at the bottom. There's little patches of white in there. And I'm keeping the orange lighter. Like, you don't want the orange to go too dark. Mixing in some yellow. And if I have to actually glaze with my white or mix in some white, I do. Oh, mold lines. I don't think I've seen the WizKids Tiamat. Now I have to go look. Let's see. All right. Let's look. Gargantuan Tiamat. I don't know. The green head bothers me. No, I don't want to join your mailing list. Please, anything but that. They don't have a really good picture of it. All they're showing you is that. They're not showing you the end of it at all. That's kind of dumb. Can I get an enlarged picture? Yeah, mold lines. Yeah, I don't know. It leaves me cold. It leaves me cold, guys. I'm just spoiled. We have Julie. Oh, it's a different smaller one. Well, we'll look at it later. But yeah, I think the fire looks pretty good at this point. Actually, if I turn around now, maybe from this angle I could put a little more orange in. What is it? Seriously? Go ahead, shoot. Bang. Tell us. Discussion questions are always good. Well, not always, but... Is it paint related at least? Oh, yeah, the raw part that you met. Plug of metal. Plug of metal. I would like to keep it more like painting related if it's a discussion question. Kodiak. Yeah, but it's okay. It's okay that you missed something. Don't FOMO. Don't get any FOMO on this stream. Yeah, the dragons that Andy did for Jim at Dark Sword are good. I have several over in a box right there. Right there, staring at me. FOMO's with VODs or more. That's good. Yay, 2 miles. Good for you. I can't wait till I get to Arizona and it's 75 degrees and I can take nice long walks. Nice long walks. Since I'm such a hothouse flower and get whiny when it gets below 60 degrees. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Oh, 48 degrees. Just putting a little extra white in some of these crevices to brighten it up. Hold on, let me see. I didn't see that question, or seriously. One miniature that you'd choose to repaint as if you had never painted it before, what would that be? Let me think. So essentially what this plays off of is the idea that when you first come to a model, you're going to learn the most you can from that model, right? Once you paint that model, it's never going to be the same repainting it, right? So, and that's not going to, one thing to understand seriously is that a lot of people aren't going to have a problem with that. Sorry, catching up with this while I think. The problem is that of the models that I really loved painting, most of them, if not, I think all of them, are ones that I did the paint job that I, like, most wanted to do. Like, maybe if I had to go back and, like, a model that I have a very nice, a soft spot for, but which I will never paint again, would be the old Wood Elf Forest Dragon. The snaky one from Games Workshop. I painted that model. It was probably one of the more advanced paint jobs I did at the time, but I painted it out when I was out of college back in the late 90s. Or late 80s, sorry. Or late 90s. Sorry. Before I did Golden Demon. And I've always really loved the personality of it, and I kind of wish that, like, I had been more advanced when I tried it, because I think I could put, like, a killer paint job on it now. But all of my, like, minis like that are going to be from long ago, because after you get to a certain level, I think you put the paint job you want on the model at the time you do it the first time. Like, and I'm not... Yeah, and I tend to be like Quindy, where once I've painted... And that speaks to it, right? That somewhat speaks to it. But in order to have that effect seriously, you've got to regret your first paint job. And I don't think there's a model like that for me. Because if I don't finish it, like if I regret the paint job early, I just reprime and start over. And that doesn't make a problem with me mentally. So I guess I never regret the jobs I do. And there's always going to be another beautiful model. So I find it, I don't think I can really capture that mindset that you would describe as that well. And that's like just the way it is. Like, we all think differently about the hobby, right? We all are creative in different ways, and we're all going to have like different kind of sticking points and blocking points and regret points or non-regret points. I mean, I could definitely, like, see where, oh, if I did that model now, I'd do it so much better. Like, I could have that mindset thing. But I still wouldn't redo it, because as Quindy points out, I tend to be, like, done with a model after I've painted it once. I really have no urge. Like, I've done it the way that I wanted to do it, and it's done. And so it's not really a thing that even, that particular mindset hiccup isn't even a thing that would ever occur to me. But then if I really love the model that much, I'm just going to paint it again. It doesn't, there's no negative there for me. It would take an amazing model for me to want to repaint it, because in general, my brain wants to go on to the next new shiny. But, like, there's nothing that keeps you from repainting it unless it's a limited edition. And, you know, that can be a thing. But in that case, with my limited models that I have, I tend to actually not paint them until I have a very clear idea of exactly what I want to do. So, yeah, it's just not something that I ever, that mindset, I don't know if it's a thing for me. If I want to paint it again, I will. It won't make a difference that I painted it the first time. I'll just know where all the hiccups are if they're there. It's just a mindset thing. Like, and it's a mental mastery thing. Like, if you want to paint the model again, but you're afraid that having painted it once is going to color your experience, put it away for a year and come back to it. Put it away for 2 years, come back to it. Like, it just means you need more space. If I went back to, like, any of the models I painted, like, 10 years or more ago, I wouldn't even remember. Like, right? It would be, like, a whole new model for me. So that would be enough to give me a new mindset on it. Right, yeah. Yeah, there are times where if I really love a model, I consider painting it again. But the thing is, I've got so many beautiful models I haven't painted at all that I'm less likely to do a repaint. Because I really do believe... for me, that's not a thing. For me, that's not a thing, seriously. it's less like, because painting it that's not so much the thing, it's just seeing it for the first time. Like the first time I saw Julie's Maldorcar in green, like the first time I ever saw that model, I had no idea it was coming, and it was at ReaperCon, the green was. I don't think we were even done with it yet, Julie. But I actually got goosebumps when I saw that model. But just because I can't ever get goosebumps again, like, it doesn't matter. It's still, like, awesome, right? Yeah, you like to put models in a closet till you're here. So I guess, and this is purely a brain thing. Like, there are definitely people who more are trying to recapture that nostalgia feeling, seriously. So it's not that, it's just that I'm not one of those people. My thinking is really future forward. So I almost never look back, and I almost always look forward and see the next new thing. Like, and imagine how much better the next model's going to be, right? And so I almost never get that nostalgia. Like, I almost never seek it out. I far prefer to be, what's the new model from X, a company or a sculptor I really love. And then I get all excited about that, right? So I'm always a forward looker. I'm not, this is even reflected in my Clifton strengths. There's a thing called context, which is essentially you're very conscious of the past, and you definitely like think about it more, and you contextualize your current life in terms of the past, and even into what you're doing next. And then there's futuristic, which is you really envision the future, and you like you can see the potential of the future, and that's where you live. And then there's people with a mix who are somewhere in the middle, and that's most people. My futuristic isn't really high, but it's higher than my context, significantly so. So I very much look more toward what's the next great model coming out this year, right? I'm very much looking toward that. And I'm much less thinking of, yeah, it's true, Julie. Your Maldorcar is the only miniature ever that I have actually looked at and gotten goosebumps about, because I had begged Ron for a 5-headed dragon tyrant thing for so many years. And when you came along with that was it. That was the model. That was it. You hit it out of the park. Yeah, it's less learn to move on sounds dismissive, and that's not quite it, Red Links, but it's more like but it's more like I'm not very nostalgia based. Like, in fact, nostalgia almost makes me unhappy. It's weird. Like, I realized that just the other day. I forget, it was 80. It was something about the 80s that popped up. Because I've been reading a lot of basketball stuff and Dream Team and Michael Jordan. I'm reading the Michael Jordan autobiography right now. Or, sorry, biography, not autobiography, right now. Called the one called The Life, I think. And it's just reminding me of stuff that was happening, like in 1982 and 1985 and stuff like that, when I was a kid. But it doesn't make me happy. Like, I get so much happier, even though I'm in my 50s now. I get so happy when I look forward, like, what can I do in the next 5 years? Like, what could I accomplish with my writing or my painting, right? I get super happy when I think of that, and I don't get happy when I get that nostalgia thing. No, it wasn't Kodiak. No. Okay, Kodiak. We were just talking about possible paint line cancellations, that's all. But we're going to not talk about that anymore. If you want to know, just go back and watch the VOD, just like Quindy said. But we did not give any specifics. It was all pure conjecture. And I don't want Ron to regret asking me for input. So the bottom line is, that's it. So yeah, weirdly. And it's kind of sad because, like, it means I don't, like, get the happies out of nostalgia, but I'm always looking forward. Like, and that's, like, it is a strength for me. Like, because when my life is in a bad place or less than optimal, the ability to look forward and beyond that place is really good, really handy. But yeah, it means I don't have that kind of feeling, really. Not about miniatures. Maybe I'd have it in some other area of my life, but I tend to be very in the moment or futuristic with miniatures. Okay. Will do, Julie. But yeah, and it's not better or worse. Like there are times I wish I was higher context because I would not make I would not repeat my mistakes of the past nearly as much probably. So remembering like where you came from is totally like there are times I regret not being more like that. But it's just the way I'm wired, and for people who can like keep in context all of that's gone before and then use it to improve their current selves, like I'm all up in admiration about those people because I'm just not one of them. The thing that motivates me is the vision of the future that I could see that could be if I work hard. Like that's such a motivator for me. And I'm not even like I said, I don't even have futuristic in my top 10 as far as the personality score stuff did. But I do have it in my top 15. And I definitely see it. But yeah, so it's we all have superpowers. They're all different. But yeah, I think if there was any model like that, it would be the Wood Elf Forest Dragon, the old one. I loved my Wood Elves so much. They were my first army ever. And I actually did paint them all. I actually had a full painted army because I was working at a game store at that time and we had a paint night. That was the first paint club that I ever had, was when we would get together we would just go to the store on a Sunday and sit and paint for a few hours. And because I had dedicated time to paint, it was the first time I actually got stuff done consistently. That's why I talk to you guys about dedicated time to paint so much. But again, it varies. So we can see there, I've kept some white. I just want to make sure that I've kept enough white moving around the model to make it look like it's glowing. But you don't have to, though, Zechariah. You should play to your strengths. It is, I mean, yeah, don't get caught up in the past, right? Like if you find yourself that you're sinking into the past and you're not able to look forward, in a positive manner, then yeah, sure. But like I said, there are lots of really, really successful people out there who are high context, who who use the past to inform their present and are in very good shape for it, right? So it's nothing is superior to anything else. Everything is just the part of what makes you tick. There are times futuristic can be a curse too. I see that a lot because in general, the daydreamers are futuristics. It's very easy to get caught up of dreaming of the future and not take action toward it. Like dreaming of the day you'll be able to paint this model that you love and then just never doing it because you're afraid to execute. Or there's another block in place that's keeping you from executing. Or you just would rather dream about it. That can be the trap of futuristic. And the other trap of futuristic is that you keep making mistakes that you've made in the past and getting angry at yourself just because, you forget you've been there before. You're all excited about making a change, but you forgot the pitfalls that you used to have about that change, and so you remade the mistake, and then you get angry. And that's not productive either. So yeah, both of these things are good abilities. I spent a very, very long time as a kid just daydreaming. And part of my productivity problem when I first tried to go freelance was that I would envision what I could do, but I didn't have the tools to execute consistently. So I could have done, and actually part of that is going to be the motivation PDF that I'm starting today. I outlined a little bit of it yesterday. But the one on miniature painting motivation that I'm putting together for my Patreon for the $10 tier for this month, it may be a two-parter if it gets too long. We'll see. But part of it is going to be, it rises actually from a patron's question about that, a new patron. I think it was you, Tonic. It may have been somebody else who asked about like my productivity challenges in the past and execution and what kept me, from succeeding the first time I tried to be a freelance mini painter. But we'll talk about a lot of that. I have a lot of things to talk about with that. Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot about myself. I'm glad that I did that early freelance thing. I learned a lot about myself and my pitfalls. And I made some resolutions because I knew that someday, this is back when I was, oh gosh, let's see. I was in my 30s, early 30s. And I was like, someday I want to give this another shot and I'm going to have a much better idea of how to be successful at it. Right? And then here I am, then 2020 rolled around and I was it was 15 years later? No more. Almost 20 years later. I guess 15 if you count like when I actually started the Patreon. Because it took when I actually started working on and then started the Patreon, that would have been a little more than a year before I actually moved out here and went freelance for good. So it took a lot of years to get there, but I did actually try it again, and I think I caught myself as successful in it. I definitely could stand to make more, but things are slowly growing, and I see progress on various fronts, and I'm really happy about the YouTube, and yeah. There we go, guys. I think the fire is pretty good now. Let's get close, and it's hard to focus on the fire because it's but that's how I do the fire. And it makes a nice counterpoint. It's definitely draws the attention, but then your attention generally goes up to her hair and her face, which are the next warmest points. Alrighty. Well then, maybe it's time to put some snow on this. Or actually, I think I want to put just a little bit of metallic highlights. Yeah, we're going to use the GW Snow, I think, because I want to be able to have something I can smooth down. And that's what their snow turf is good for, their Valhalla and Blizzard. I've used other snow before, but I think I want to use this, so we'll see. We'll see. What have I got? I want to get some of my clay shapers. I like to apply it with a clay shaper because then I can wipe it off. I also want to do a little bit of gold highlights on the tarnished brass brazier. So we'll do, again, go with the brightest gold you can. So new gold is the brightest. New or dragon are the brightest golds for MSP. They're different flakes. Yeah, snow is challenging. Well, that's not going to work. All right. Let's just do a little bit of metallic. I just want a little bit more highlights just around the edge here. Bring out my metallic just a little bit more on the feet. I don't want to put a lot of detail into it because most people won't even look at the brazier. And I don't want to punch the metallic up too high because it'll conflict with the OSL. So I'm just going to brush a little bit of metal. Just a little bit to give a little bit of that glow right there. Yeah, snow, I don't think there's a great solution for snow. Like the thermoplastic microballoons that Jen has used and I've used in the past, I don't like them because they're just toxic. You have to use a mask when you do them. I kind of like the Games Workshop stuff because you can mold it a bit. Because it's a paste. So, alright, just a little bit more metallics and now I'm ready to move on. Yeah, it's always pros and cons. Yep, for sure, Richard. Okay. Alright, I'm going to stir up my goop. All of these texture pastes. I did add water to help keep it fluid. Here's my goop. See? And I definitely mix these up because shaking them just isn't going to be enough. Be careful, depending on how you want to use them, you don't want to add too much water because you want to be able, if you want to be able to sculpt like snowbanks and stuff, then you want to keep that in mind. This is generally good for like clumps of melted, half melted snow. Whoop. Alrighty, let's see what we can do. I'm gonna do kind of a, and I kind of like this for this surface because I can, as you can see, I can sculpt it. I can make it kind of go exactly where I want it to go. See that? This is why I like this product. It's because on a base like this, I can sculpt it to go along all these little rocky outcroppings. It's going to be hard to get a good, sometimes it's hard to get a good chunk of it out, so you've got to kind of use, I use two clay shapers. I use the little chisel one and I use the big flat. The chisel lets me take the stuff and transfer it safely. Once I've got it planted, it tends to stay pretty well. Then I can kind of pat it and shift it around a little bit. But yeah, this is definitely, like, snow has fallen and then it's melted off of the rocks, you know, it's making these big pats of snow that are somewhat melted. That's what this product is good for. And that's another reason joining new snow onto old snow being a hard thing. That's why it's good there's different levels on this, different pieces of rock. So I can do that sort of thing. As you can see, I'm just leaving a little bit where it's going to melt. It's going to take a while for it to set because I did add water to it. So it is a little thinner in places. I'm going to do a little puddle of snow here. Let me grab a tissue and some water and wipe off my tools so I can keep working. But yeah, I like the clay shapers for any sort of texture paste like this because they're so easy to clean off. They're so easy to wipe off. Yeah, those are the thermoplastic like microballoon stuff and all that. And they do great, but oh my gosh, they're just so toxic. They're so bad. Yeah, and snowfield can be rough. I would say the woodland scenic snow is what I would go for if I was doing like grass tufts sticking up through it and stuff like that. I find that the woodland scenic snow is better for that kind of thin look. And the key here is to try to keep these like big and mounded and smooth. which is why I think putting a little bit of water in the product is actually a good move. I'm going to just cover up this ear, I think. There. But yeah, the patchy melting snow, I think is where I want to go. And I'll make a little bit on his little beak, I think. It's going to be less, the snow's going to be definitely less around this big brazier, so, because it's going to have heat. I can use the edge of this chisel to push the snow back and away if I need to neaten up the edge. Connect these two little guys here to one kind of snowpack. I'm going to put some rocks. I'm just going to like slowly work down into this area, and I'm just going to keep an eye on how it looks and anywhere I need to touch it up. But yeah, yes, yeah, it does yellow. I mean, you can mix white paint into it. There's always like ways around some of this stuff. Let me see here. Maybe I just want this little blob of snow down here. Also, if I decide at any point that I don't like any of this, I can take my water bottle and just drop a drop of water into it and just wipe it off with a big brush. So if I decide that I'm like not into wherever I have put it, I'm just going to make a big pat of snow here that's like it's sitting in the saddle. And of course, whenever you are doing this stuff, if you feel like it's not looking right, look up pictures of snow. Like melting snow, I could look up here, but in general, I like that a lot actually. This little drip down going in here. And that's what the edge of this chisel tip is really good for, because it's small. I can guide some of this down here. I don't know that it's robust enough to hold other basing materials in place. I would put I'd put the rocks down first like I did and go over the top. And if you want to leave a rock sticking out, you just kind of stick it in the crack. But maybe. I don't know. I've added enough water to mine that I don't think I would trust it with that, seriously. Because it makes it easy to guide, but it definitely, the more water and fluid you add, the less medium you've got to hold it all in place. But you could try it. I like it that it is very white, right? It's very, very snow. I'm going to just put more snow back here. It's easy to wipe off the edges if you get too much of it. But because you have to leave the bottle open, you know, to work with it, obviously you're going to want to add more water by the end of it, even if it's just a little bit. But yeah, I find this stuff very easy to work with the clay shapers. I really like using the clay shapers for this. We'll see how it dries. But the thing to remember with snow is sometimes you just can't use the flocking. Sometimes you also need to use like paint. With the Woodland Scenic stuff, I almost always put a thin layer of white paint on it as well. Push it around so I can get at the other bits. But yeah, overall, I think this is a good product for this sort of thing. I think, here, I did another model using this product at one point in the past. We can see that is coming along. Let that set 1 second. Let me pop this closed and see if I can find my other model I use this on. Would have been back in 2020 after I moved. Oh, come on. Hopefully I kept a picture of it. Oh, well, maybe I didn't. Maybe it's just on my my website. Or maybe I have a picture in here. Ah, there we are. Oh, but I don't have her, oh yeah, I do. Okay. The first time I tried it was on my GW Commissar. 1 second. Boom. There we go. Did it for a commission. But yeah, I could put the snow around the rock, and I could also put it in little crevices in the rock. So I really liked how that came out. And that was my first try with this stuff. Oh, there it is, from various places. But yeah, so it was really easy to guide around the little flagstones, was what I really liked about it. That kind of thing. But yeah. Alright, so yeah, I had it right. I had it right. So as it evaporates, it's going to flatten a little bit. So I just got to kind of look at it, see how it's holding up. But that's just going to make it look like it's melting. So it's not a deal breaker that it does this. See? It totally is giving me a more natural look by giving me that kind of translucency in those spots. So yeah, as the water evaporates, as the moisture evaporates, we're gonna get a little bit of shrinkage, and that's okay. That's just like real snow. So anything that makes that look better for me, that's a plus for me. Oh dear, it's already past 11. How did that happen? It's already end of stream. Well, I might have to stop here then, because I don't want to start a whole new big section and then. And this way we can let it dry and see how it turns out. Next time we come back to it, we can see how much it shrunk. I would guess it's going to shrink a bit. But like I said, if I get more melty patches like that, that looks like real snow, I'm like all happy about that. I think this would be a good product to use like if you're doing ice. If you're doing an ice effect and you want that kind of snow along the edges of your ice kind of clumpy thing, I think it would work really well. Yeah, I still I'm tempted to put a little bit of snow on the edge of the griffin's beak. I probably will, just a little bit. Give him a little dusting. But we'll keep working and we'll add more snow next time. The model's almost done. Let's back up. So yeah, I want that cold wintry feeling. Beaksicle. That would be cool. I could do a couple icicles. They're easy. Icicles are super easy to do with Woodland Scenics water effects. Yep, a couple of Beaksicles suggestions. Remind me next time. I might not remember. Alrighty. Well, thank y'all. And yeah, we'll set her down so that she can dry without dripping. I think I'm okay with my, I don't think I need to add more water right now to my stuff. Remember, when you have this kind of thing too, it can benefit from storing it upside down, because then you've got all the liquid making an additional seal and your air is at the top where there isn't any break in the bottle. I will be here tomorrow, and then I'm gone for 2 days. So tomorrow we will paint Ed's spell effect, because we're pretty much there. I'm gonna prime brush on prime the skull and the spell effect. Oh, Crowley. And then, yeah, then we really just have to put some grass, like vegetation, like dying grass, probably, my dead grass stuff on the base, just to give him a little bit of something. Yeah, the spell effect looks good, so I'm happy. We'll finish Mr. Snack and the spell effect, and everything will be cool, and Ed will be done finally. Wow, finishing a lot of models together. I think we're going to start on the giant Reapercon, Sophie, from last year, for one of the replacements, maybe the Ed replacement. And then I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with Caerindra. I did just make an order from Reaper, so we might put the new quarterly, the new 90-day model in to replace Caerindra. Yeah, the big Druid Sophie, which I'm still thinking about how I want to paint her. I'm getting ideas. But anyway, thanks everybody. Come back tomorrow for Ed. Have a great day. And I will talk to you tomorrow morning. You just got one of those? Good. All right. Super cool. All right, everybody. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you again tomorrow, all right? Bye-bye. Oh no.